love Maserati, they'll mesmerise you with exotic words that are impossible to say without an Italian accent. Grecale Trofeo, Fuosiera blu intenso, Nettuno, and even the chassis, Giorgio. But look at it. At the end of the day, it's just a mid-sized family crossover. How good can the Grecale actually be? And how good does it need to be, given that it costs around £100,000? Let's take a look. Oh yeah, this works. Woohoo! Molto intenso. I'm sure it's worth 100 grand though, but the Nettuno engine plays a very big part in that. It's a 3-litre twin-turbo V6 with 530 horsepower and 620 newton meters of torque. Oh, it sounds amazing. And it gets this big fat SUV to 62 miles an hour in 3.8 seconds and onto 177 miles an hour. It is a good looking car, isn't it? For a mid-sized family crossover. I rather like this large grille, which is lifted from the MC20 supercar. Then in the Trofeo version, the nose is pushed forward, which makes it all look rather imposing. Then you've got these massive side vents that kind of sweep around, molto bella. Then you've got these very large wheels, 21 inches standard. Then the famous triple vents above the front wheel arch. The brakes are massive, as you'd hope. 360mm drilled and ventilated discs, and they are a necessity. Weighs more than 2 tons, this thing. And the sills are actual carbon fibre. Has quite a heavy set rear end, rather bulbous, but that does make the overall effect look a lot more sporty and nose forward. Maserati says these are boomerang rear lights, in homage to the most famous feature of the classic Maserati 3200 GT. I can sort of see it, but the light cluster itself is quite, well, ordinary. It's only when the LEDs are on that you see it. Well, they've tried to make it a proper Maserati, haven't they? And you can feel that straight away, mainly with the steering. It's very alert. A lot more weight and feel than your average SUV. It's not quite as communicative with the road as a Porsche Macan's is, but it gives you just enough confidence to throw all 2 tons into a corner with certainty. And when you do, the air suspension stiffens up and stops the body rolling around like it's drunk. The gearbox is mega at the quick stuff too. It's an 8-speed torque converter, so you'd think it would be better at the lower, lazier end of the spectrum, but it's very snappy. You can just leave it to get on with things. And these paddle shifters are gorgeous to use as well. They're proper tactile and really enhance the experience, especially on the upshifts. Yes, please. Yes, not all Grecales are built equal. Not all Grecales have the same Nettuno engine. In fact, a basic Grecale has a 4-cylinder engine. That is the same as a basic 2-litre Jeep Compass. I'm not sure why I keep doing this. There's nobody here, except for that horse over there. There are a couple of 2-litre versions with about 200 fewer cavallos. Those Grecales are a lot cheaper, but still not cheap. About £65,000 as a starting point. What about the interior? I really like it in here. I think it feels classy. The seats are really comfortable, but also very sporty feeling, and visibility is fantastic. The side bolsters are pretty thick, but I got used to that pretty quickly. I really like the steering wheel. There's something special about having the start-stop and the drive mode dials on there. Feels very racy. There are a lot of other buttons on there though, some of which are very confusing. And note, there are no other buttons on the dash. Oh, that's a lie. There is the gear selector, which my cameraman absolutely hates, but I'm actually not too offended by that. No need to worry though, because the lower of the two touchscreens is dedicated to comfort controls, and it's got this really clever aircon feature that turns the whole screen into a slider for temperature and fan speed. It makes it much easier and safer to adjust them when you're on the move. How cool is this? The screen does attract more fingerprints than a police station reception though, and those gear selector buttons, putting them here has liberated some extra storage between the seats. Deal with that information, cameraman. And that leaves space for a wireless phone charging pad, little storage area here, two good-sized cup holders and a nice large storage area in the armrest, which is needed because the door pockets are minimal thanks to a rather large speaker. And while we're in this area, note the lack of door handles. Instead, we have a button that opens the door. That is very Fiat-y. The 500e has that too. And it's very cool, except for directly underneath it is the emergency door handle. Kind of ruins the magic a bit, doesn't it? It's a little bit like having digital wing cameras and then taping a mirror underneath it, you know, just in case. At the lower price points, you'd say that the Grecale cabin feels easily special enough. Lots of stitched, soft-touch leather, sporty but sophisticated, digital but conventionally luxurious. The dashboard clock is really cool too. It's basically like an Apple Watch, but instead of showing your heart rate, it'll tell you how many G's you're pulling in the little car park, or how hard you're pushing each of the pedals, for some reason. It's basically very spacious too, a bit bigger than a Macan, and certainly enough headspace and legroom for 3 adults, maybe 2 more comfortably, dual climate control, and a lovely panoramic sunroof. The boot is molto grande. It's 570 litres, which is 80 litres more than the petrol Macans. There's a 40-20-40 split rear bench for flexibility, but it is worth noting that the 2-litre versions are mild hybrid and they do eat into your boot space. Yeah, the mild hybrid versions, because as lovely as this engine is, and as well spec'd as the Trofeo is, you're into serious money. And I'm not sure it's quite as sharp or as honed as the cheaper Alfa Stelvio Quadrifoglio, for example. And for that reason, sensible money spend goes into a 2-litre Grecale. Let's take a basic Grecale GT, 65k, 300 horsepower, 0 to 62 in 5.6 seconds, quick enough. All-wheel drive, same automatic gearbox, 99% of the looks, less carbon fibre mostly, and much easier running costs, MPGs and 30s rather than the 20s or teens. Also £1,650 in first-year road tax, as opposed to £2,340, lower insurance costs, and of course about 39 grand off the list price. And actually, a lot of things in this car are options anyway, including things that you would definitely expect for this sort of money. Heated steering wheel, ventilated front seats, head-up display, wireless phone charging, surround parking cameras, blind spot monitoring. They're all extra cash. I can get half of those things on my old Golf. The adaptable air suspension, however, that is standard, thankfully, and it does help make this a very nice, comfy day-to-day family car. One thing that does annoy me slightly: while the paddles are very tactile and lovely and large, they're so big that you almost have to reach around them to use the indicator stalk. Indicator stalk just needs to be 1 centimetre longer. That's all I ask. And, believe it or not, the Trofeo isn't even the most expensive Grecale. That honour goes to the Folgore version, which means lightning. Lightning because it's the electric one. It's not even as quick as the Trofeo, but it costs £110,000 before options. I mean, why? No, I'm not asking why. I'm putting the Tesla Model Y in your mind. You could buy 2 of those for that money, for instance. But Maserati says that this thing makes your everyday exceptional, which it probably does in a way that Tesla probably doesn't, but Is it better than an equivalent Alfa or Mercedes or BMW? I wouldn't say it's exceptional, but it is very good, particularly if you like the badge. Let me know what you think in the comments.